Hi everyone, welcome to Grill a Christian. Grill a Christian is meant to be your opportunity to think about the deeper questions of life. We'll ask a question and you can hear the Christian perspective and then give your own thoughts or ask your own questions. It's meant to be relaxed, open and respectful. These days there doesn't seem to be a lot of chances to engage with people who think differently than us. Usually it just involves a lot of yelling and accusations, but this is meant to be the opposite of that, where we hear what others think and we keep asking questions. Maybe we'll be convinced by the other person, maybe not, but at least we'll understand each other better. I'm Jesse, the minister of Eaglehawk Presbyterian Church, which is hosting Grill a Christian. Normally this is meant to happen in person, Sundays at 4 p.m, so that we can actually engage with each other. Unfortunately, because of the lockdown, we can't do that today, so this is the best that we can do for now. I'll give you my thoughts like I normally would, but I hope you'll still engage with what I say. And so make sure you leave a comment. Give your thoughts on the question or ask a follow-up question. And if lockdown's over, make sure you come along next week. And so the question we're asking today is, does God matter? Does it matter what we believe about God? See, I've come across a lot of people who ask this question about God. And actually, it's not usually a question. It's usually something people assume, that God doesn't matter. Or at least it doesn't matter what you believe about him. Now, I think there's a few reasons for this. And if you can think of another reason, then you can let me know in the comments. Some people think it doesn't matter what you believe about God because they're polite. They know that people can get passionate about big topics like God, and so they're happy to let people believe what they want about God without challenging them, in the hopes that they won't get challenged about their own beliefs. They're polite. They want to avoid the debate that topics like religion and politics usually generate. And so they're happy to say that you can believe what you want to, I'll believe what I want to, and it doesn't really matter. It sounds like a path to harmony. Another reason people say this is that they don't think God is relevant. They think if there's a God of some sort, then he, she, it, they don't impact on life. This God or gods aren't demanding anything more of us than we demand of ourselves. So whether this God exists or not, or what this God is like, it doesn't really matter. It's as irrelevant to our everyday lives as whether we class Pluto as a planet or a dwarf planet. You can take whatever position you want, because in the end, it won't impact your life at all. But that's a big assumption. What if that assumption is wrong, and what we believe about God really does matter? I think it does matter what you believe about God, because what you believe about God will impact a whole lot of other things you believe. It'll impact what you think about right and wrong, why people are special, and it'll impact how you cope with hardship, with whether life has any meaning, and more. Actually, every single question we'll be looking at in Grill a Christian until Easter, and probably every single question we have about the deeper things of life, it all depends on what we say about who God is. But here's what I think. I think everyone assumes, without really thinking about it, that there is a God. That's both what the Bible says and what I see in other people. Here's a couple of verses from the Bible. What can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. Basically, people know there's a God from the world around them. We'll get into this more in a later week when we ask the question of who's really believing fairy tales, Christians or atheists. But we know instinctively that this world isn't an accident. If I found a phone on the ground, I'd never assume it just appeared. It's too perfect. It must have been designed and made. And our world is more amazing and complex than a phone. Another reason I think people instinctively know that there's a God is because of morality. Again, this is something we'll think about in another week, but there are things we all know are wrong. The Bible says the work of the law is written on their hearts. See, we know that murder and rape are wrong, and that can only be true if there's a God who says they're wrong. Otherwise, it's only opinions. So the Bible says we all believe in God, and we all live as though there is a God. But does it matter what we believe about that God? There's so many reasons why I think it does matter. It matters because truth matters. Because if two people are saying the opposite things, they can't both be right. It matters because the afterlife matters, and different religions tell you different things about what that looks like and how to get there. But I'll focus on just one reason. Imagine being at a party and you come across a woman called Lily. Lily approaches you and wants to have a conversation with you. Would you ever think of ignoring what she was saying, walking off, and then start to imagine in your head what she was like? Lily's right there to talk to. She's ready to have a conversation with you, to become your friend. Why would you ignore that and make up your own Lily? If you want to know Lily, you need to listen to Lily. Ask questions about her passions, dreams, likes and dislikes, about her family and background and job. To know someone, you can't just imagine whatever you want about them. You actually need to engage with them. There is a God, we know that instinctively, and He wants us to know Him. He's told us all about Himself in the Bible, and He's the best person we could ever know. The Bible says that one day with Him is better than 1,000 elsewhere. One day with Him is better than a trip to Europe. It's better than a month at Disneyland. He's better than our imaginations can ever imagine. He's the giver of every good thing we have. He does more for us each day than we could comprehend. The world keeps turning because He wants it to. This is the God who's introduced Himself to you, who offers for you to know Him. But just like Lily would be insulted if she came up to you at a party, but you ignored her and made up a Lily of your own, God's insulted when we do that to Him. We all know there's a God, and He's told us who He is. There's a lot more questions that we could discuss if we were in person, and hopefully we can do that next week. But there's a God who's introduced Himself to you. The question we're all left with is, do we want to know Him? Do we want to know the one who made us and loves us and has told us all about Himself? Or do we want to insult Him by inventing a God of our own imagination? A God who doesn't matter and doesn't impact our life or our afterlife. There's a lot more that could be said, more explanation or justifying what I've said, but I don't want this video to go on forever. Guerrilla Christian isn't meant to be just me talking. Hope next time we'll be able to have a proper conversation, but for now, leave a comment. Do you think it matters what we believe about God? Did this spark any other questions for you? Next time we'll be thinking about the question, is my child more valuable than a rat? Should be an interesting question to think about. So see you next Sunday, the 21st of Feb at Eaglehawk Presbyterian Church at 4 p.m. Or, if we're still in lockdown, I'll see you back here online.